What is the new Corporate Transparency Act, and will it actually apply to you and your business? So if you're a business owner, you need to listen up very carefully if you haven't heard about this new law that's going into effect on January 1st, 2024. So moving forward, starting from the new year, the federal government wants to know all your business. They want to know who the owners of your company are. So if you run a company, if you have a business, you need to pay close attention. This applies or impacts entities that are filed with the state that they're running in. So if you have an LLC, if you have a corporation, if you have a foreign company that's doing business, and it doesn't matter which state you're doing business, you need to provide the federal government with information. And specifically, the agency that's going to be taking the information from you is FinCEN, the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, designed to crack down on money laundering and all these bad things that are happening in some companies, but it affects all companies. So who does it affect specifically? Let's go through. There is a list of exempt companies, and we'll link it down in our blog. So this list of exemptions applies to the listed companies. The listed types of companies don't need to actually comply or provide information. So if you are not one of these companies listed, then you will actually need to provide the federal government with information about who the owners are. So if you have an LLC or a corporation, which are the two most common types of businesses, you need to provide a beneficial ownership information disclosure statement to the federal government, otherwise known as a BOI. And what is actually on this BOI form, right? A lot of people don't know what they need to provide to the federal government. You essentially need to give them all the information related to ownership. So if you have owners that are more than 25% interest holders in a company, you need to provide their names, social security numbers, residence, date of birth. You need to upload a passport or a driver's license for these people. You also need to provide information, the same information, for anyone that is not an owner but a controlling person in the company. So if you have CEOs or COOs that are running the show, you need to provide their information as well. A lot of detailed information that the government wants to know about your entity. So that's the type of information they're looking for. And the question is, how long are you going to have to provide them with this information? So if you have a new entity or a new company that's formed after January 1st, you only have 90 days to give them this information to file the statement. If you are not a brand new company, so let's say you've had your business before, you have your business in 2023, you formed it in 2022, it doesn't matter. You formed your company before 2024, you actually have until January 1st, 2025 to provide this information. So you have a whole year. For those that are newly established effective 2024, you only have 90 days, and so you better get cracking on filling out those disclosure statements. If you do not provide the information to the federal government, what's going to happen? You're going to be fined $500 per day. Don't worry, there's a cap of $10,000, but you're also risking jail time. So they're kind of following the same IRS rules about not filing your taxes on time or properly. So you are risking $500 a day and possible jail time if you fail to disclose the information. So be very, very careful. Now, what are they going to do with all this info? They're going to create a database of all the companies that are running in the US and who the behind the scenes players are. Who are the owners? What are they doing? They're creating transparency basically to prevent or to stop crimes, specifically money laundering and all these other things that are happening, not to your company, of course. But they're requiring all of us to comply with this new law as well. So when they create this database, the question is, who's going to have access to it? Can just anybody go into this database and find information about your company? The answer is no. This database is not going to be open to the public. It's only going to be for federal purposes only. So the federal government is going to have access to it. And it's only going to be certain agencies in the federal government that will actually have access to this information. And they go as far as requiring some of those agencies to actually have a court order to access the information. So even within the federal government, not every agency has access to these financial informations on your company. But of course, for those of you that have created companies or entities to create some sort of ambiguity or secrecy behind the ownership interest. Unfortunately, you are going to have to disclose it to the federal government, but they are keeping the database. They're not making it public. So hopefully your anonymity and privacy is maintained. That obviously doesn't apply if there's like some sort of data breach or hacking that happens on this database. So we hope that doesn't happen, but the federal government wants to know everything and anything about your company if it falls within the guidelines of the type of companies that they are requiring disclosures from. And for the most part, most companies are going to be required to disclose.